People think when they get plagued with something, they think that it's a random occurrence, that it's something that just happens to them, they're victims of circumstance, and that they've really got no control over what befalls them. But that's simply not the truth. Hi everybody.
Hello everyone.
We are going to talk about the issue of sugar in fruit, because even though I believe we've talked about this before, some people are still concerned that there's too much sugar in fruit and it's not good for you, and it can lead to obesity or diabetes or whatever else they think that too much sugar will lead to. So that's what we're going to talk about today, because frankly there's a lot of misconceptions about fruit and about the role that sugar plays, and we're just going to talk about that just a little bit today. So, yeah. I'm going to state the obvious. You're never ever going to find an obese fruitarian. They just don't exist. We don't put on weight, so forget the idea that too much fruit can make you fat. It's complete and utter nonsense. It's not going to happen. The only possible fruitarians who might be overweight are ones that are starting off overweight and they're losing weight slowly. If they've been doing it for a long time, if they're steady with what they're doing, they're not going to be overweight. They're going to be slim. Fruitarians are slim. We're all slim. There's no exceptions. You can't be a fat fruitarian. The other thing is diabetes. Now people, it's difficult for them to understand this, but diabetes is not caused by eating fruit. That's simply not the truth. If diabetes is caused by eating too much fat, predominantly eating a lot of animal-based products, animal flesh, animal secretions, processed foods, processed oils, grains, all these kind of things, acidic forming, they're going to slowly clog up the arteries, and they're going to cause problems with sugar absorption in the body. This is the truth, and whoever is trying to put the blame on fruit, it's complete and utter nonsense. You're not going to have issues with something like diabetes if you're a fruitarian. Once more I say, you're not going to find a fruitarian with diabetes. They don't exist, just like fat fruitarians don't exist. The only ones that would exist are the ones that have diabetes already, and they're trying to get rid of diabetes, and it will work. If you stay on fruit for long enough, you won't have diabetes. Of course, type 1 diabetes is a different story to type 2. If you've got type 1, that's a much deeper problem, I believe.
I just want to say something to type 1,
if
I may.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So, I have a long time friend, and her husband is diabetes 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He injecting insulin. So because I'm curious about such things, I asked him, because he measured the blood sugar level before meal and after meal. And I asked him if he noticed the difference when he eats different things in a blood sugar reading. He said yes, he does. He said he knows things which put his blood up, and he have them anyway because he likes them. So he have to put more insulin, but he is also aware that there is a lot of meals he even don't need to inject insulin, and it's okay. So I believe even with diabetes 1 is go back to diet. That's the main trigger of diabetes. I believe. I may tell you some stories here later on. So I just want to say...
Yeah, she's absolutely right. There are two people that have written a book together. It's called Mastering Diabetes. One of the authors was called, I think, Robbie Barbaro, and the other was a doctor whose name I forget. The book is called Mastering Diabetes. You can find it on Amazon or elsewhere. And it's written by two people with type 1 diabetes who significantly eased their issues they were having with diabetes by turning onto a whole foods, raw food, fruitarian diet. So if you're really in doubt yourself, please look into that book and have a read, because obviously we are not diabetes experts. We're not experts on anything, not really. I mean, we haven't got any letters after our name. We know what we're talking about. We know from our own experience what things are, and that's what we're talking from. We're not doctors. We don't give advice. I'd like to repeat that, because you never know with people. People might think, well, somebody said so, they said so, and I did this, and they run into problems because in the end they probably didn't even do it properly anyway. So we're not responsible for your health. We're telling you what we believe we know, and if you look into it yourself, I'm sure that you will find out that we are speaking the truth. But you need to do that research yourself. You need to find out that's true. Fruit is the ideal food for humans. And fruit isn't what causes people to have these issues like diabetes or obesity. On the contrary, it's the opposite. You won't get issues with things like that. This is very important to understand. People like to put blame on something, but when they're eating white flour bread and sugar, processed sugar and all kinds of things, they're going to run into problems. And they're trying to think that processed sugar is in some way, shape or form comparable to the sweetness of fruit, when that's simply not the truth.
Well, I had a friend, it was my neighbor. It's a beautiful story I have with her, but I make a story very short. She has a diabetes, and she actually met me. I was in a garden, and she started talking to me, and she told me about her diabetes, and when we finished the conversation, she told me, before I met you, actually I prayed to God to help me with this disease. She is the lady from Samoan Islands, and when I was telling her about fruit, she said, yes, you actually reminded me of my father. I know now why. Because you growing fruit in your garden. And my father also grew a lot of fruit in the garden. And I was bringing back to her memories, just talking to her about fruit. I said to her, what you eating? And she ate mainly meat and grains. And I said, you know, maybe that's your problem. Your diabetes come from that. And I told her, do you eat some fruit? And she said no. And I said, well, in that case, there may be a problem because you don't eat fruit. And she said, but doctor told me I should not eat fruit, only maybe half of some kind of fruit in a day. That's it. It's very bad. Fruit is very bad for diabetes. I told her, okay, how many years you have a diabetes? She told me, for example, roughly out top of my head, 5 years. I said, are you getting better or worse? I'm getting worse. I told her, in that case, there's definitely something wrong in the treatment. It depends on you. You just try it and see how you go. If you feel worse, just go back to your food you're eating. But please try for me eating fruit. And she said, you know, I never ate fruit since I was a child, and I will listen to you. And she tried, and she got better. She was getting so much better, and she was grateful and thankful to me each time we run into each other or she come visit me. She will always hug me and tell me, you are the best doctor. And, you know, it's, as Mango says, it's up to people. She could say, that girl is full of it, I won't bite in it, I believe the doctors. And she would never experience. She actually had the diabetes, and she improved by eating fruit, a lot of fruit. and eat less of meat and bread. I told her only do that, nothing else. And
Yeah.
there is other stories with my grandma. She had diabetes. She never ate fruit. She ate bread, bread and bread. She used to bake different breads at home, different pies, because it was cheap, flour is cheap, sugar is cheap, or you need water, sometimes just one egg, bit of yeast, all cheap. Grinds, 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 and meat. That was her diet. She was huge, and only when she was about 60 years old, she developed diabetes related to her very unhealthy diet. The doctor told her certain things in her diet to reduce. She done that, and she started losing weight, and her diabetes readings were getting smaller. But unfortunately, she was too addicted to the food she was eating, so the food in the end won over her, and so she was like on a roller coaster, and then she died.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, people don't understand this, and if you go to a doctor, they will give you wrong information. They will tell you that fruit is dangerous, too much fruit is dangerous. And I know I've also got one particular friend, an old friend, who suffers from diabetes and has done for many, many years. And at one point in time, I tried to suggest that he should think about going on to fruit, eating more fruit. And his response was that it was almost like ridicule, really. He kind of laughed at the idea and said that if he did that, it would almost certainly kill him, and that he tried every possible diet that he could do to reverse his type 2 diabetes and hasn't had success. And obviously, from his point of view, he knew so much more about diabetes than I ever will do, because I've never suffered from it or never had to look into it to any great deal. And it's true. What does he know about diabetes? A lot more than I do. So in the end, I stood back and said, you're right. You know so much more about diabetes than I ever will do. But he doesn't know how to reverse it. I know more about health than he ever will do. And I know more about living without diabetes than he does. These things are obvious, but somehow or another people think when they get plagued with something, whatever it might be that they're diagnosed with, they seem to think that it's a random occurrence, that it's something that just happens to them, they're victims of circumstance, and that they've really got no control over what befalls them. But that's simply not the truth. The truth is that we have control over our health, and it's because we make mistakes. And the reason why we make mistakes is because mistakes have been made everywhere, and we're surrounded by temptation to make mistakes all the time. The TV is telling us to make mistakes. Family and friends tell us to make mistakes. We're born from the get-go.
The doctors.
Doctors too. We're always told, these are the mistakes that you need to make. Of course, they're not framed as mistakes. They're framed as healthy choices. They're framed as the correct choices. They're framed as normal choices. But they're not.
Yes. Like, my mother was here the last time. She lost a lot of weight. She looked really good. And when she returned back in Europe, and she went see her doctor on a regular basis, she does, because that's what normal people do. And it's another belief. You have to go regularly to doctor to check up on things, make sure you're not getting something. You have to go to doctors on a regular basis to check if you're all right, if there's not something wrong with you. So my mother is one of those people who does that. So when was her time, she went to her doctor. She has for 40 years. And he said, "Oh, you look so good. And what have you been doing?" I'm sure he regretted that right away when he said it, but there it was. He was in a shock because she looked so different, you know. He didn't expect from somebody who is like this, be almost skinny as me. After so many years, he's treating her, and obviously he knows the doctor, she's obese, but he won't treat her. That's not a problem. And so when he asked her what happened, she looked so good, she said, well, she ate only fruit. And he said, you can't do that, that's very bad for you, you're going to get really sick, you're feeling good now, but after a while you get really sick. He so scared her that she stopped eating fruit for a while. And then she told him that on the phone. And I said, Mom, you know, I eat fruit for many years. You know that. And so, am I fat or skinny? Yeah, how will you consider my body size? And she started laughing because she could see it didn't make sense. The doctor tell her something.
No. She was the healthiest that she'd been for decades when after she left you, and for her to go home and a doctor to tell her, "Oh, what you're doing is really dangerous," when before she was on the brink of dying almost when she got here. She could
Yes,
hardly
she
move.
was. She had digestive. After seeing doctor on a regular basis all her life, she suffered. 80-year-old, maybe 82, I forgot.
Yeah, she was
exactly.
80. Yeah,
80?
Yeah, 79, 80.
Anyhow,
Yeah.
that's a little detail. So, last time she came here, she had her digestive system hardly worked. She couldn't digest the normal food easily. She would have pains in all her joints. She would have very low energy, and she would feel very down, negative, depressed, kind of almost depressed. And she came here, she ate fruit only, and you should see her improvement. Each day, it's obviously visible improvement. And I have also studied this doctor, but do you want to say something about it?
I was just gonna. When I wrote down this here, it's the predominantly animal products. So you've got animal flesh, animal secretions. I think dairy products have particularly been associated with type 1 diabetes. You've got processed sugars. You've got processed oils. Of course, all the processed foods, all the junk foods that you're eating today. These will spike the blood sugar and deplete the body of nutrients, so prevent nutrient absorption, which is why we have this situation that we were talking about the other week about supplements. There's all the supplements out there because people are depleted in certain things because they're eating foods which prevent absorption of those essential nutrients that they're not getting, which is what I said before. We don't worry about any of those because once you return to a species-specific diet, once you can finally acknowledge that we are a frugivorous species, then that need for the even knowing about those nutrients and individual micronutrients of food is complete and utter waste of time. You don't need to know any of that stuff. You need to know what you need to eat. That's what you need to know.
Yes. So yeah, I mentioned this before, but you know, stories goes and people come and goes too, so I'm sure there is a lot of new people here. So I have to go regularly to doctor each year because I'm driving my hands, because I can't use my legs. And once we went to see this doctor for those papers, somehow come in a conversation, come out that Mango mentioned we eat only fruit. And that doctor straight away grabbed on and straight away want to do some tests on me, but I said I don't want that. So be it. But years later, I was going there every year for the paper written, like my condition is still the same. And years later, I get some nasty bite. I got really sick from it after even few months after the bite. And so I was so sick, I decided to go to see doctors and say I got bitten and if they can help me. And so she told me I'm dehydrated because as I was a doctor office, I threw up in her rubbish bin. And she told me you dehydrated. And they had there in the office, they have, in that doctor place, they have a room for like die patients, I think they call it. So they put me in that room and they put this drip of
saline solution.
Yeah. Because I asked what is it and she told me what it is and it's supposed to be reasonably harmless. So I agreed to have it. And I was there with the needle on a drip in my arm and she arrived after a while and she seized the opportunity and she said to me, can I take just a little bit of blood from you? I would really like check that blood sugar, level for you, because I really worry for you. You have a high blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And I said because I was also weak and trashed by that bite for months already, and I just said, yeah, okay. So she took a blood. That test is done very fast. So she came back after, 10 minutes.
Okay.
She told me, with the big disbelief, my sugar level is totally perfect. And she felt like puzzled by it. And then she said, I would like actually do another test on all your blood reading. I'm sure you must missing something. She still wasn't convinced.
Mm.
So I said, okay, do it.
Mm.
And as I seen her second time, about in 2 weeks' time, by coincidence, the blood test reading of all my blood, whatever they read, arrived on her computer. So she opened it and she said, your blood test just arrived. And she was so excited. Finally, she going to find some fault on me. So she opened the test and she went again, wow, this is miracle. How this is possible? Your blood reading is totally perfect.
Mm.
All I have low reading on a B12. But on that she said, look, who knows the perfect level of B12 anyway? Because she saw my blood reading was so perfect. This is few years back. She only like 7 or so. She would kind of let go of her concerns, but true is she will keep nagging me about B12 after some time anyway. But this is about the sugar level, so she learned my sugar level is perfectly perfect.
Yeah, I want to say, I've written here also, that fruit, it's a complete food. It contains all the fibre, it's got water, it's got vitamins, it's got minerals, it's got amino acids. It's
Protein.
well, amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So yeah, amino acids. It's got electrolytes, whatever they are. I mean, I've never known what they are, but it doesn't matter anyway. It's got them in there. It's got it all in there. All the little micronutrients that are in fruit. And if you're eating a broad range of fruit, you'll get it all in there. And the other thing, because it's a complete package, when the body absorbs it in a very, very efficient way, the fructose that's in the fruit is absorbed very slowly. So it improves insulin sensitivity in the body. It doesn't do the opposite. So society has it completely wrong. They believe things which are completely not true, and they've brainwashed and hoodwinked everybody else to believe the same nonsense, because doing so is good for the economy, it's good for money, it's good for profit. And people make a lot of money on your health, on you being ill. It's like a huge money
biggest, one of the biggest industries making biggest money. It's the pharma.
Yeah.
You know, so, and those people eating the medication, they're not getting better. We know people, they're sick for years, including our family members on a medication. Are they getting better? No, they're slowly getting worse. Also, the sugar. There's a lot of sweeteners, artificial, natural one, and processed ones. So, the best and safe natural sweetener is a fruit. You don't need any sweetener besides fruit in your life. And that's the only sweetener which is natural for you and safe for you to eat. Unfortunately, fruit has a really bad name. In last 10 years at least, I see it in the media, I see it from conversations with the people. I was reading on the internet story of a lady with a cancer and how she went through therapy. And she really made a great story, writing about every detail, how she was throwing up when she was just walking, about the clinic where they was giving her chemotherapy, because the chemotherapy treatment after she suffered so bad that she wished she's dead. And I read her story for a few nights, and I really felt for that lady, and I wrote to her about the fruit and what she told me. No, I can't eat fruit. Fruit is worst thing. The sugar feeds the cancer. It's a worst thing for cancer. Fruit is not sugar. Fruit is not glucose. Fruit is not even fructose. Fruit is not some syrup or sweetener made in factory or made in a laboratory. Please, use your common sense.
Fruit will help the body melt the cancer.
Yeah.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, we have friend, Janice. She was a beautiful example of, she already was a young kid. She already was at least in her 60s. She got the cancer. And how she healed herself. She went to mainstream doctor, she didn't know better, but she was treated in a way her intuition didn't bite in. She said, this is not right. She looked for alternative, the natural way, and she got treated with the raw food diet and some different chemotherapy with much smaller doses. I don't know what it is, but I learned those natural people. She wrote books about it. She ran around Australia everyday marathon for a whole year. After being healed by nature therapy, which was based on a raw food diet, she's still running somewhere in Europe just recently. Look, just listen to those people. Their real life experiences. You know, not what doctor tell you or some guru over the telling you, giving you advice about your food, when you should eat, how much you should eat, what you should eat, and how much of what. Don't listen to those things. They only confuse you. Listen to your body. Listen to people who talk from their own experience.
Okay, I think we've more than answered your question today, so it's goodbye from me.
Okay, and that's goodbye from me, and we wish you all best, and thank you for following us and showing interest in what we have to share with you, and we hope that life is treating you well, and please cultivate love in your heart, because love is the best thing you can have.